What's up, you guys? It's Mimi here, quote, the Mushroom Queen. In today's episode, I'm so excited to share with you my passion, my obsession with all things mushroom, AHCC, HPV, prevention and treatment, all the benefits. And we also talk about how to identify quality mushroom products. In this space, there's a lot of new products popping up every single day. So I'm going to give you some pointers on how to recognize quality. Hope you enjoy.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome, Mimi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming here.
I'm so happy to be here. Privileged.
Your expertise, your content, like your passion is something that has been a growing passion of mine and interest for the last couple of years. And it's one of those things, total honesty, I kind of just picked up on from people that I respected, other health influencers, coaches, podcasters. They started talking about a lot of different things like nootropics and mushrooms and more of like the woo-woo wellness stuff, you know, that's old East Coast chase. West Coast chase is all about it for sure. And it's just been fascinating to me, learning more about it and then implementing it into my own daily health practices. So like, I don't even know where to begin with you. Let's just start with, who are you and like, what is your passion? Because I could probably guess, but you can say it very well.
Yeah. If there's one thing I'm lacking, it's definitely not passion for what I do now. Well, by degree, I am a registered dental hygienist. I have been for 9 years, almost 10 years now.
Great teeth, by the way.
Thank
Incredible.
you.
I'm due for a cleaning. I'm embarrassed now.
Oh, you have great teeth. Yeah, nice teeth.
COVID backed me up for you.
Yeah. Hey, I was, when everything was shut down, I was cleaning my man's teeth, my Chase's teeth.
Great teeth as well over there, killing the game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's my best patient for sure.
Damn.
So I am a dental hygienist by degree. I still am technically, but I don't practice clinically. What I do now on the day to day is basically teach people about mushrooms, and I do have my own private label of a mycelial product. And I
You're like a year in again, by the way. Congrats. Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been just now a year, last September, and that's been a wild ride for sure. But yeah, I spend my days educating people mostly on Instagram, and, digital course, for HPV on the benefits of mushrooms and how, they belong in us really. And, so about 3 years now, I first heard about AHCC, which probably everyone listening to this, if there are any of your listeners that are listening and like, oh yeah, I've heard of AHCC, props to you, my friend, because in 3 years.
Because I haven't until I met you.
And you are how deep into health and wellness? How many brands, how many things have you
All the things.
been pitched or heard of or whatever, or seen research on? And so yeah, in 3 years, I've met exactly 5 people now, up to a whopping 5 who have heard about AHCC. When I start talking about it, they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. Fewer already take it. So I first heard about it actually in my dental hygiene office, back in Seattle when I was living there, from a patient who was older. She was like 55 and was diagnosed with HPV. And her naturopath recommended a mushroom, quote, a mushroom to help clear her HPV, which it did. And so I was super intrigued, and I was like, I have to know what this is. Because I thought, I have had Four Sigmatic a few times. I knew about chaga, I knew about reishi, I knew about lion's mane. I thought I knew. And so when, she had told me, oh, it's AHCC, I kind of got this little ego trip. I've never heard of that. If it's this great, why haven't I heard about it?
Yeah.
So then I go and, Dr. Google and the web, the interwebs, and look up AHCC. And sure enough, it leads me to the Research Association. And so I'm like, okay, this is legit. It's got 33 years of clinical research behind it now,
Oh, wow.
originating in Japan. And, first it started out reading reviews online of cancer stories and autoimmune and things like that. And then you look into the actual clinical data, the clinical research behind it, most of it, kind of revolving around the C word, cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just incredible. I was immediately intrigued. I bought a bottle, started taking it, bought the books, started learning about it, and I haven't stopped since. And this is 3 years out. And I will probably be doing this the rest of my life.
Amazing.
Yeah.
A couple things in there. It was an area of mine that when I began to dive into, particularly mushrooms, learning more about them, at least to my experience and my research, there wasn't a whole lot. Now, there were chaga and reishi are kind of always the ones that I could find.
The king and queen.
Exactly. Yeah, of course. The king and queen are going to have the most information on them in terms of clinical research. And I was always confused as to, is it just that they're so new to us to study that there isn't that much clinical research, or is it that they're still kind of taboo in a way that even science doesn't want to kind of go through the efforts of research? Because we can find thousands of years of human reference to reishi and chaga in mushroom use, but why is it taking science so long to kind of, run these trials, run these tests, and just give us the information?
I have a few theories. I don't know for sure. This is speculation and guesswork on my part. I think it all comes down. Eventually, it all comes back to the dollar, right?
Big pharma, yeah, a little bit.
There's not a huge vested interest in these huge organizations to fund a bunch of research to something that cannot be patented, right? That cannot.
Okay, yeah.
So I think there is some of that. We could probably talk about speculation of why it's taking so long. Maybe, people wanting an over-the-counter. I want a pill. I want something that has a commercial for it, right? I want to be the happy person that's being paid on the commercial. Like, I want to be that person. What's the pill that's gonna? Versus, really, medicinal mushrooms are part of a healthy overall lifestyle. It's not a one-stop shop. It's not a overnight thing. And I think, unfortunately, we are gradually coming away from holistic, balanced lifestyle to what can you give me now in this 7 minutes that we have together in this appointment? I want to feel better tomorrow. What do you have for me?
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit, going on both sides, from the consumer perspective and from pharma perspective.
I would agree.
Yeah,
probably.
But that's not to demean or put down the actual power of these compounds and substances. I mean, they have been used for thousands and thousands of years for a reason.
Yeah.
There's over 300 different medicinal mushrooms in common use today.
I think I know my shit when I'm talking about my 4 that I use every day.
Right. I know, that was me too.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they will never not fascinate me, and I will forever be a student of fungi. Like, I just will. They're too important. They're too easily accessible, and they're too powerful for every human to not spread this information.
What was the origin for you? Was it just someone walked in and you heard this word and you dove into the research? Did you have kind of like a health concern that brought you to mushrooms? What's your origin story with all this?
Yeah, it goes back even further than hearing about it. AHCC and HPV. I had been kind of dealing with my own health struggles and battles. I had self-induced, I will say, because I was, had some orthorexic tendencies and overexercise, underate, and kind of put myself into this state of horrible digestion, hair falling out, completely deficient. I had, abs showing, but I had 0 estrogen. Wow. And I was a health coach. Like, I was a dental hygienist and a health coach on the side. And I could help someone lose weight, but I couldn't figure out why my hair was falling out in clumps in the shower. So, you get on this kind of like snowball of information, right? I was just a podcast junkie. Started out with the Model Health Show with Sean.
My exact same origin story. The first ever podcast I found, the first person I ever heard talk about mushrooms.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
He was the first that I ever heard talk about medicinal mushrooms. And that I can specifically remember. Maybe I heard about it. It just never landed. That was the first time that it landed, was talking about 4-sigmatic. So I got the little packets and I started doing that more as like, I'm trying to be healthy. I'm trying to do all the things.
I was trying to be like Sean, honestly. Like, we find somebody that, looks or acts or kind of puts off this vibe that like, I want that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I did it. And like, I love the stuff. Absolutely. But it's we traditionally start off trying to emulate somebody else, right?
Yeah. And he was a huge inspiration for me, all throughout. He still is, honestly. I've kind of graduated away from, being like so clung to his podcast. I've really branched out, but man, he was my first inspiration for sure. So that was really where it started, was like, there's something wrong with me that I'm too embarrassed to like ask for help on. Like, I should be able to figure this out.
I'm the expert, right? I should know this.
Yeah. I'm a health coach, right? I'm precision nutrition certified. I should be able to figure this out, when I couldn't. At first. And so then it got to the point where I was like, I got to switch. I got to quit doing what I'm doing. I have to take a, hard right and go in a different direction. So I got with a naturopath, getting blood work done. And, I was self-diagnosed like hypothyroidism, but I really became like my own best health advocate, and really developed this like just insatiable thirst for my own health knowledge. And then once I saw that paying off, and I saw like, okay, I'm doing some things, and I'm starting to feel alive. I'm starting to feel human again. I was at the point where working dental hygiene in the rock bottom, it would be 1 p.m. and I could barely even like keep my eyes open to talk to my patient, and they're looking to me to take care of them with sharp instruments in their mouth.
Please don't fall asleep.
You're right, exactly. And it was more of like my brain won't even like stay on. Like I can't even like find the words. I was searching for words like wind, like not like big dental hygiene words. It was like, I can't even put 2 and 2 together. So I had to.
Can you describe a little bit more of that? Because I've been there. I think what you're kind of describing, but I know a lot of people in their health journey, that's probably an area that they're coming up against pretty often. Yeah. It's just, I feel like I'm doing all the things, right? I'm working out, or I'm active, I'm eating well. I've made these changes, but for whatever reason, just something is off. Can you kind of describe more of those, I guess you could call them symptoms, but what was just not clicking for you? And how did you know that you could change that?
Well, I mean, what was not clicking for me was my brain didn't feel like it was working. It honestly, like I didn't know what was wrong with me. I couldn't digest food, even the healthiest. Like I would have, quote, I know now that it's not great for my digestion, but at the time I was eating, raw kale salads with salmon and all the veggies for, every day for lunch, and having super lean dinner, working out, 2-a-days most of the time, HIIT, lifting, cardio. Sometimes it's too much. It's too much. You're too perfect. And what I mean by that is it's too many things, right? A lot of times.
Would you say too many stressors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think, I look at my life now, and I have just as many practices and rituals and routines, but they are overall kinder to my body. And I'm able to tap in and listen to my body now and really be like, okay, yeah, I can take a day off of lifting. Before, no, I was like, no, I have to lift. I have to get this workout in. I have to, because I'm the person that does this. I'm the person that says no to cupcakes at the lunchtime birthday party. I can't do that. I can't change that. They know me as this.
You're latched onto that identity.
Yes, it becomes part of your identity. You're seen as the health guru. You're seen as this person. And so to give in or to not do something, even when no one's looking, it becomes part of your identity. Especially, I don't know if you dip into the Enneagrams at all, but I am type 3 through and through, the achiever, where it's like, this becomes who I am. When you're out of balance, it's like, I have to do this now. And so for me, coming back to your question, what wasn't hitting was, I felt like I was doing all the things. I think deep down, I knew it was too much. And I really, my skin, I had this inflammatory cystic acne for 2 years straight.
Oh,
And without ever, I mean, like 25 years I went without.
during this period of
Yes.
like, I'm doing all the things.
Yes.
I'm
My
all,
body
wow.
was screaming at me like, this is not right. This is not right. We hate this. And I had never had a hardly zit in my life up to 25 years. Never had an issue with acne. And then
So you're the girl that we all hated in high school.
probably,
I'm over here like pizza face. And
right.
you're like,
I never had that, not once, and not washing my face. Like, it was just crazy. And so my skin and my hair was the last straw. Like, I could deal with low energy. I can get by. I can grind through, but like
I can
when
mask
you,
those.
right.
Yeah.
When you take away, like, I have explosive acne now and my hair's falling out in clumps. Okay. What do I have to do? So I actually stopped. I took 6 weeks off of lifting. I did yoga for 6 weeks. I got with a naturopath. I started reading every book I could get my hands on about how to treat hypothyroidism. I became an expert in whatever I was dealing with. I was like, okay, I have to become the expert in this. Instead of putting it towards external validation in what is my appearance, I put that energy towards, I'm going to become my own expert. I'm going to, have my naturopath who's going to get the labs and get the sensitivity tests and get all the things that I need. And she can be my sounding board, but I'm not going to rely on her to find my answers, even a naturopath. So that was when it really, really stuck for me that really everyone has to be their own best health advocate. You can't rely on anyone else to give you the answers, because only you can actually tune in to what's going on inside of you, inside your mind and inside your body, those cues that your body gives you every single day that no doctor is going to be like, but wait, last Tuesday you weren't pooping, right? Remember? Like, no one's going to know that, right?
Even the highest level concierge medicine. I don't care if you're like on FaceTime all day. Like, no one's going to be you. No one's going to be a better coach than your own body.
And when that really sunk for me, and then I started seeing results, it was long-winded. Don't get me wrong; it was not an overnight success. It was years, honestly. But that is why I'm so convinced in and really passionate about teaching people how to become their own best advocate, and giving them also tools. What does that look like? Well, I know the efficacy, safety, history, and potency of things like medicinal mushrooms. That's something that honestly I believe belongs in every human. Whether
I agree.
Whether you're going through something right now or whether you're blessed and you're in a good spot and you feel amazing, having something like mushrooms in your system to help combat what comes at us every single day, toxins, bacteria, pathogens, viruses. Now I feel like we have to say like the V word, right? The C word, the V word. Yeah. So these are really part of a lifestyle to not only help maybe, I say this, with a grain of salt, treat, right?
Right.
Because you can't ever like make certain claims, but treat or prevent chronic illness for sure.
And so now I understand you kind of have like a three-prong approach to how you have incorporated and made incredible changes in your physical energy, your mental energy, your internal, external appearance, and just your overall outlook and application to life and to everything. Can you walk us through kind of how you've built this kind of system for yourself and then how you channel it in to educate your audience and clients and everybody else?
I mean, really, there was no like initial like strategy, marketing approach, strategy, anything. It was more based on my personal experience, seeing that it can't just be the workouts and the food. It's got to be mindset too. It's got to be, is this the food that you're actually eating that you think is healthy? Is it actually healthy? Like learning how to read ingredient lists and things like that. It is part of a holistic approach to health. And I will, fight anyone that says that the mind is not involved and mindset and stress management is not involved in the overall health and of our overall health and wellness and well-being.
I say it all the time here, where the mind goes, the body will follow.
Absolutely. The mind-body connection, we can't deny it. And so this is through my own experience of getting into meditation and seeing real results when I actually got into, like, allowed myself to go to that stillness, that place where I didn't want to flip on the light. Like, I was putting on the app, but I wasn't really touching the things that made me really uncomfortable. I wasn't really dipping into the shame and the guilt and, things in my past that I needed to deal with that were adding to my emotional stress bucket. That was, it sounds crazy, but I saw the biggest turn in my health when I started addressing the internal, can I say shit?
Fuck yeah.
When I started addressing the internal shit,
Yeah.
because that's what it was, dusting off my soul and being like, all right, we're gonna clear out some cobwebs here. That was when my mind and my actual physical health really linked
100%
back
the same.
together.
Yeah, not to cut you off right there, but just it's always reassuring to me. And like anytime you're doing something that you think is working, and then you hear somebody else say the same thing, like, oh yes, it's amazing.
Yeah,
100% my same story.
Yeah.
Years ago, like five years ago now, working out 8 days a week, never went a gram over my macros, was like 8-9% body fat, hitting all my PRs, just the worst of my life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I finally did all that, I started reading, started listening to podcasts, started opening up my mind. I was doing everything else, quote, right. But once I finally opened up my mind and started paying more attention to my head and my heart, and literally just started, I got like a legal pad, piece of paper, $4 notebook, and just journaled and dumped all that shit out.
It is.
That was the most transformational, most pivotal moment in my health, physical health, mental health, emotional health ever.
Yeah, I believe it. I'm 100% aligned. And I would encourage anyone, if that's the last piece to your health journey that you haven't addressed, you may not even need a counselor or a psychologist or anyone.
Start with you, right?
Literally get still, get quiet, and just listen.
Especially if you think you're doing all the right things.
Yes.
Especially because that will shine a light onto areas that you've been ignoring or have room for improvement, or the areas where the ego likes to kind of like, no, we don't need to look.
No,
there.
you're good. You're good. No, you haven't told anyone about that. No one knows yet. So you don't have to. For me, honestly, like being completely transparent, it was emotional trauma that I had self-induced from my divorce. And obviously your listeners don't know, but I married my childhood sweetheart. We were together for 10 years, married for 3, and we actually separated and divorced. And I hadn't dealt with things that from that separation, divorce, just how I handled myself and the
that
shame
relationship, that identity.
Everything. And how I left it, things that went unsaid, that was all built up inside of me. And no one else was going to be able to deal with that shit than me. And when I actually said, like, okay, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this anymore. I can't live the rest of my life not dealing with this. I don't care if it's hard. I don't care if it sucks. I don't care if I have to have hard conversations. I cannot live with this inside me anymore. And then, A leads to B leads to C, and my soul was like, just, I feel like awakened and brightened. And, I was actually like led back to, my love, my one love that I've had in this life, and who's sitting right over there, my Chase. And that was really, I mean, honestly, like dealing with my own shit. I know not everyone has that ability, or maybe they should even, I'm not saying go get back with your ex, but for me, it was what needed to happen. And man, that's a long story for sure. That's a whole podcast episode on its own. But
would you say that as a fair word to describe that kind of, you just finally surrendered?
Yes, absolutely. Open and surrender. And I just kind of said, okay, whatever is going to happen is what needs to happen, because the way that I'm doing it is not working.
Yeah, that's huge.
And
I'm sure somebody listening right now can relate to that.
It's just, sometimes the best thing that you can do and the hardest thing that you can do is just to let go and to say, like, okay, I will.
It's exactly what it's exactly what happened to me. And exactly what I recommend, more so when I was back in my kind of clinical health coaching practice, was like, you may be doing all the right things. You may be doing a lot of the right things, right? But just there's something to the surrender of just what needs to be, of what we're not addressing, of just being still. Absolutely. Highlight one of my favorite authors, Ryan Holiday. His book "Stillness is the Key." It's something about just finally making space and making a practice for just nothing, really. Whether that's sitting and meditating, whether that's going on a walk, whether that's journaling, whether that's reading, just there is such profound revelation and transformation in quiet and stillness.
I love that concept.
And it's typically because we finally just make space for ourselves. Right? We stop seeking out the distractions to hide ourselves, to distract ourselves.
Often, I mean, I can sense it with just you and my personality for sure, and so many others that I've met in this health and wellness space. It's sometimes not about filling more and getting more and getting more knowledge, more knowledge. Sometimes it's about actually just emptying the vessel, getting it clean. And so something, we were just talking on the way up here, that one of the biggest pieces and best pieces of meditation is thinking, I like to think of like actually my soul as having like a mirror surface, and I can only reflect back to people what I want to when that surface is clean, right? So every day, like thinking about literally emptying my soul and cleaning off that mirror. How reflective is that mirror of what I actually want? You must go through a lot of Windex. Maybe not Windex, maybe like the
a lot
natural
of apple cider vinegar and lemon juice.
I actually made that the other day. So, exactly. And so a lot of times it's not about filling more. Like you and I are full. We need to actually work on emptying and creating space for just our own ability to tap into our own intuition, soul. And really this is coming back. I know you asked a question a million years ago, which was explain your whole approach to now, like how you teach.
Right. Yeah.
And I think, the best teachers pull from their own experience. That's how they connect to whatever kind of student or client that they have or patient.
How are you going to relate to that person? The humanization component. Yeah.
And so I'm like I said, no strategy or marketing involved, but it was really like pulling in all these pieces that I did and then seeing like, okay, this is what it took for me to heal. And I took a very long approach, right? How can I condense this for someone who is desperate for answers? How can I make a map of sorts? So take, for example, someone trying to clear HPV, human papillomaviruses, affects 80 million Americans, 14 million Americans new every single year.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of devastating, but it's not something that's talked about a lot because there is some
I hear
level,
it every once in a while, but those are big numbers.
It's some level of shame, guilt. What I hear from women a lot that I work with is, feeling dirty. And it's crazy because you can be a virgin until you get married and still get HPV if your partner has had previous partners. So you can be literally as clean, quote unquote, as clean as, literally virginal as possible and still come down with something that gives you a negative stigma attached to you. So really the virus is slow acting, fortunately. The stigma is the really, really dangerous part.
And probably most damaging.
Yes. So what this does is it keeps people in the dark. It keeps people quiet. They don't ask their friends for answers for questions. Hey girl, did you ever get this? Like I'm experiencing this, like we would with say any other, like say autoimmune or something like that, where there's not this shame attached to it. So I find myself kind of being a safe place for women to come to get some level of answers. And oftentimes I'm the only one they've ever told that they have HPV,
Incredible.
Even if they have a current partner. Sometimes they haven't even told because they're that ashamed, even though homegirl probably got it from him.
Even then, still not wanting to bring it up.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's something that's really devastating, and my heart is just tugged on because I hear these stories every single day, and even this is a personal story, but last week I had to take kind of a step back from my DMs and messages. I answer every one of them myself, and I had to take a step back because it was so heavy. The stories that come to me from women who have no hope, no answers, that are just literally wanting to be dissected like animals by doctors. And, these doctors are trying to help. They're trying to give, hey, these are the options that we have available. Unfortunately, none of them are, in my opinion, non-invasive, really like looking at the holistic organism that is this woman. They kind of just want to like cut and tear and take out pieces and parts.
Which is my kind of fair interpretation of most modern medicine. It's just, it's not the whole picture. It's just like, what are you telling me that's wrong? And do I have something that can fix it?
Yeah.
We could take that and apply it to most things.
Yeah, unfortunately. And so I get these stories of women coming to me, and I'm just overwhelmed sometimes by the emotion and the desperation and the lack of hope, and kind of bearing that. I will bear it with a great attitude and with joy, but yeah, it physically takes a toll on me. And so teaching these women that it's more than just a vaccine. It's more than just cutting out the damaged cells.
Yeah.
It is your lifestyle. It is, yes, the research-backed supplementation, right? That I educate on every single day. It's also what other medicine are you putting in your body in the form of food?
These are kind of the three main components we're talking about:
Yeah.
the mindset, the nutrition, and then the supplementation. But key nutrition, key supplementation, and then key mindset tactics, right?
Yes, exactly. And so I kind of have this three-pronged approach when I, specifically with the example of HPV, the course that I have is, it's not just supplementation, because as I know, you can be taking all the right supplements, you can be doing all the right things, but if your lifestyle isn't dialed in, you're just effectively not stacking the deck in your complete favor.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to help women do is, let's look at your food, let's look at your actual, what are the other meals that you're, putting in your body? Are you going through the drive-through? Are you looking for toxic oils? Are you addicted to sugar? Are you really supporting your body with non-inflammatory foods, which is paramount when you're trying to heal anything any chronic illness, infection, disease, anything like that. And then also, like I mentioned, there is with HPV some level of shame, guilt. A lot of women feel betrayed by their body when they come down with something like a diagnosis of HPV. They feel like, what? I thought I was healthy. I've only been with 2 people in my life. How did I get something like this? And so they feel betrayed almost. I hear that word a lot.
Yeah, like I've been trying so hard to do all the right things and be clean, eat clean, just honor my vessel kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I could totally understand that. Like, do you ever hear like, well, then what's the point? I'm trying to do all these things and I still failed, kind of thing,
Yeah, I do hear that. People, when they get to me, are pretty desperate for answers. So there's usually, they're like little sponges and they want, what can I do? What can I do? My doctor's not helping me at all. So I don't hear what's the point. I hear, what can I do? Which is great. I'm happy to deliver that. And so, reconnecting to our body is really important. Like, coming full circle back to tapping into your intuition, your own soul, like what's your body telling you, and feeling that like my body is trying so hard. That's what I try to teach women in this course is like, your body is working so hard for you right now, trying to clear this virus. It's also working with toxins in the air, in our food, and our water supply, in our anything non-organic and sprayed with glyphosate. Your body has so much to deal with right now, and it just isn't able. It doesn't have maybe all the tools that it needs to clear this virus. For some reason, there's a breakdown somewhere. But really reconnecting to the body and knowing that it has your back for real. And there's no one that's working harder for you than you.
Yeah.
So really like getting the woman connected back to her body is like almost more important than any supplementation, any food. It all goes together. I won't say there's one that's more important, but it all absolutely goes together. So that's where I'm at right now. That's most of the education that I do right now. When I get my DMs down to 0, you can ask Chase. Oh my gosh, it's like, oh, babe, I got down to 0. And then 10 minutes later. But I'm happy. I'm happy to take these questions and everything.
It's very clear. One thing that just came to mind when you were describing when you're reading a DM or working with somebody. I'm again kind of transplanted back to my health coaching practice of, we could come up with a great plan. We could come up with a lot of different approaches, or even just one approach. A common barrier to adherence was, well, when I go home, my husband's going to be like this, or my family's like this. how or what advice would you pass on to someone who wants to make these changes? Maybe the mindset, the nutrition, the supplementation, or even just specifically with HPV. How can they effectively pass back some information or just stack the deck in their favor when they go back home? Because that's key. Environment's key, I believe, in adherence and success.
That's a really good question. I've never been asked it before.
Yes.
Specifically on a podcast. So I love that. I think it all comes back to understanding your why. I know that's kind of very saturated, like know your why, understand your why.
It's for a reason.
Right, exactly. So I would say get that clear within yourself, and then be able to effectively communicate it, crystal clear communication, whether that be to your partner, to your family, to your roommate. I would sit down and actually have a conversation with them, be face to face. If I'm talking to my man and I'm saying, you know what, this is how I've been feeling lately with this diagnosis of HPV. I'm just like, I know that I need to make a change, and it's going to provide me so much support if I know you have my back. And what that looks like for me is maybe we can go grocery shopping together. Maybe we can look into some new cookbooks together. Maybe we can start cooking together. Maybe we can be eating out a little less, because I know that, for me, like working on my health and knowing exactly what's going into my body is really going to be beneficial for me and my health, and just stacking the deck in my favor to really clear this thing. So
it's very obvious we love Sean Stevenson. Stack conditions in your favor. It's like that and mushrooms. The two things I got from him. Yeah.
I think any man that is a good man that wants to take care, and I say this because I mostly work with women, but this goes either way. If it's a man trying to clear genital warts,
your significant other,
anyone that cares about you, because men come to me too. It's just the majority of women. So and I'm a woman, obviously, so that's my mindset. But it goes both ways, honestly. If your partner cares about you and loves you and wants to see the best for you, they will be on your side. But they need to know, especially if you're talking to a man, they need to know what you need. You can't expect that he will know that you don't want to go through the drive-thru anymore, that you don't want to choose convenience over your health. Do not put your man through a test that he doesn't know he's taking.
Thank you for saying that. Because we need a lot of help sometimes. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but for all of men out there, nod your head in the car while you're listening. If sometimes it feels a little frictiony when your partner, when your wife, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever comes across and says, hey, this is what's going on. And, all of a sudden you do feel like you're taking a test that you didn't know you were taking, or, at least give us a heads up. There's going to be a pop quiz later. We need a little bit of study time, a little prep time. And usually, personally speaking, when I'm aware of that, I'm on board, or at least I'm aware of what I need to do to show up to her, to show up to the other person that I'm on board.
Absolutely.
It helps so much.
Yeah. And I think it all comes back to communication. So that does require some level of ownership and responsibility. If this is a woman, again, putting it on her to really effectively communicate that, and not to come at it combatively and say like, you always do this, or you do not point the finger, because that's going to be met with defense. If keep it in your own experience. When we go through the drive-thru, I know it's not the best for me and my healing. And so what I think, being able to eat more and cook more of my own meals and know exactly what's going into my body, I think that'll provide a lot of confidence and just like ease of mind for myself. You're constantly bringing it back to your own experience.
Right,
do not point the finger and say, you always do this, you always want that fast food, you can't do that anymore. Otherwise it's not going to be received well.
The quickest way to get somebody not on board with something is to say you.
Always,
the second
never.
you point the finger, the further the wedge you get them into the goal that you have, or the ecosystem you're trying to build. Absolutely.
And that goes up, that you can put that in any part of a relationship, whether it's a friendship, family, or your significant other. Like, take this out of the health and wellness space, but just anything within relationship. Like,
the second you hear the word "you," what do you do? You naturally get on the defense.
Yeah.
The second I hear, my wife or somebody else, in any relationship, once I say "you," like, okay, here it comes. Like, I'm getting yelled at. I did something wrong, and we immediately, human nature, we go on the defense.
Yeah.
versus
Aside from a woman coming to you and seeing, obviously, because both are coming from a place of distress,
right.
whether the
Right.
the finger is being pointed at you, Chase, or whether it's being pointed back at me, it's still coming from a place of distress and possibly fear. So if you see a woman in distress and she's like obviously like needs help, you're gonna want to like come to her rescue a little bit. Like, yeah, baby, I'll show up for you. I'll do it. You want to be her hero, versus like, I don't want to be just someone's doormat. So I mean, that goes across every part of a relationship for sure.
That I feel like we'll have to come back for part 2 on that, the relationship component to health. I mean, the key word I kept hearing you say in there was together. Yeah. And when we want to be successful in our health, in our wealth, in our relationships, in everything, I firmly believe that when you have the right partner or partners, the right environment, stacking the conditions again in your favor, like the more successful you can be together, the more successful every individual is going to be. But I would love to, this is kind of where I love getting kind of like personally, I'm like, yes, having people on that are just experts and passionate in certain fields. I would love for you, please, can you walk us through some of these key supplementations, key medicinal mushrooms, as they relate to and how you use them and recommend them for HPV, but also just like, why mushrooms? Why mushrooms for human beings, for homeostasis, for immunomodulating, for immune system, for just like daily wellness, really?
Love it. Okay. Sleeves are rolling up. Okay.
Here we go. Here we go. We should have got like a display board out and just like actually gets exhibit A, exhibit B.
So why mushrooms? I love this question. One, we are more closely related to fungi than fungi are to plants. A lot of people think that fungi, mushrooms are some sort of plant or vegetable. They are not. They are in a kingdom all of their own. And, if you go way, way back, there's evidence to support that we actually evolved from the same super kingdom as fungi. So they incorporate with our DNA, human DNA, very, very well.
Wow.
That being said, obviously, we all know there are some poisonous ones.
Yeah.
That's not to say that they don't have benefits in the forest, wherever their natural habitat is. So I'm not saying all are safe. You obviously want to make sure that you know what you're getting, and any foraging or whatever, always do with a professional. I say that just as a caveat, disclaimer, and putting that out there.
Put it out there.
Why mushrooms? They are so intelligent. They are dynamic, healing organisms, and I'm confident, so confident now, that they belong in all of us. They are relatively easy to get. I say relatively because there's no shortage really, but you want to be careful about what you're getting, because in the space of up and coming, mushroom supplements, guaranteed there will be companies that just kind of monitor market trends and see, mushrooms are buzzy now. Let's come up with a mushroom supplement, right? Yeah. They might not actually have any growing experience or growing knowledge. Rather, they're getting it from company X, and company Y is acting as sort of a middleman, kind of distributor to the consumer, you and I. So the consumer thinks that they're getting a mushroom supplement when really it's more of a grain-filled, diluted, myceliated grain type of supplement. So
it's like enough of the thing to say that it is the thing without really being the fullest spectrum of the thing, which I think you could plug into pretty much most supplements out there. It's whatever the passing grade is on proprietary blends or, X amount of whatever. It's just enough to kind of just, say this is what it is.
Right. And it always requires, mushrooms are amazing and dynamic, but they're also kind of complicated. And it does involve some level of education. And even for myself, I'm 3 years into this and I'm still learning every single day and will forever be a student. But really understanding the anatomy of a mushroom is super important when you are consuming mushroom products. I talked about AHCC. That is a cultured mycelial product. So what that means is that it's cultured from the root system of the whole mushroom organism.
That's the underground network, right? We're talking about.
So this is the root system, but it's more like a network of intelligence. They are in nature navigating through soil, potentially pathogenic, environment, and actually able to communicate with surrounding life, trees, plants, flowers, and things that can
I
draw
saw that in that
nutrients.
documentary, Fantastic Fungi.
Yeah.
That blew my mind.
Oh yeah, our world
Real.
is made up of mycelium.
It's like, I've seen this movie. It's called Avatar, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
right.
James Cameron was right. He was on something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so mycelia are absolutely super intelligent. They provide so much to our world that we don't ever even see.
Yeah.
Then above the ground is the actual mushroom. When someone pictures a mushroom, you're picturing the fruiting body. That's what it's
Right.
called, the fruiting body. Or, this is like essentially the fruit of a tree. It's
Exactly. Yeah.
so, but again, under the tree is the roots. That's really what's keeping the tree alive, right? So mushrooms, the fruiting body, are usually only around for like 3 to 5 days until they start decomposing.
Wow, that
and
fast.
the mycelia are, they can be hundreds and hundreds of years old.
Wow.
So they give rise to the fruiting body. So when someone is purchasing a mushroom supplement, a lot of times they think that they are getting, the fruiting body.
Okay.
A lot of times what they're actually getting is what people call, like I already mentioned, myceliated grain.
Okay.
So what happens with a lot of companies is that it's very expensive to grow mushrooms, generally in the US especially. So what they do is they grow the mycelia on grain like rice, oats, rye, something like that. It's very cheap.
Like, it can easy surface thing that it can actually.
It's the
be
growing
harvested.
medium.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it gets all incorporated. It's this inseparable mass, right? If you put it in a big plastic bag, the mycelia incorporates into the rice or rye or grain, whatever.
Wow.
You take off the plastic bag, it's still standing up. It's that incorporated.
Wow.
So it never actually got to the fruiting body stage. Some companies do this. Some companies do use this, but it's a lot cheaper to just let it get to that myceliated grain stage, and then they put that in some grinder and grind it up.
Okay.
And deliver it to the consumer. So the consumer is getting some benefit from the mycelia, but they're also getting a lot of filler grain, something that they don't necessarily know that they're getting. Some people do know what they're getting and they choose that and they want it. Great. That's awesome.
And really not necessary. We like, why should I get this added into this thing for a supplement I'm looking for? A health concern. It's there. It supports the process, but it doesn't support the end goal.
Right. And, there is some argument, there is some, kind of early research to show that it does have, like, the fermentation process that happens does have some benefit on gut health.
Okay.
But the biggest thing for me is I just want people to know exactly what they're getting. That it's not actually a mushroom product, that it is a myceliated grain. And again, I love mycelium. I love mycelia. It's the kind of diluted, misleading products that I don't jive with. I don't put it down any brands or whatever, but I do have certain brands that I specifically use because I know the quality and the assurance that it is pure, either mycelia or fruiting body or spores. And we haven't even gotten to the spores yet.
We haven't. Real quick before we get there, on the consumer end, like, what can the listener be looking for to kind of pick up on these? Like, I should be getting this one, maybe not so much that one. How can we interpret these things if they're even on the label?
They are, yeah. So mushroom supplements fall into this supplement kind of category where they're not super regulated by the FDA, which is in all a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But things that you can look at on the label, they should be saying what's actually in them. So a lot of times they're fancy words that sound really good. They sound super healthy. They sound like something that I would want in my body, like mycelial biomass.
Sounds super science.
Right. Yeah. Or primordia or full spectrum. That sounds better. Well, I don't want just like single spectrum. I want full spectrum. What that means is that they are combining all parts of this grain, mycelia, maybe some fruiting body in, and there's a lot of like filler happening. So that mycelial biomass is what would be on the label.
Okay.
So I'll just run through these words again that someone can check their mushroom supplement. Mycelial biomass, primordia, full spectrum, or sometimes they'll say grown on organic or non-organic rice, oats, rye, grain, brown rice, things like that. Or they might even just say myceliated grain.
Okay.
That's exactly what that is.
And these are all things that we should be mindful of that we probably don't want.
It's not, I will say that it's not necessarily going to hurt you unless you have really severe celiac and you can't, you
But this
can't
is just
do.
like an interpretation of what we're reading.
Right,
So you can
yeah.
make the best judgment call.
Yeah, I just want people to know what they're getting exactly. You probably won't, it won't hurt you per se,
Okay.
but you may not receive the benefits that you're really hoping for. If someone listens to this podcast and like, oh, I'm going to be gung-ho on mushrooms, and you're looking for these benefits, if you have, HPV or whatever, and you're looking to clear it, and it's not happening because you got the $15 special on Amazon, it's probably because you're paying for, expensive grain.
You pay for what you get.
Yeah. And so those are the main things. The analogy that I like to use that is if you go to a farmer's market and you want to buy a pear from a farmer and he turns around and hands you a pear tree with the roots and the dirt, maybe there's a pear on the tree, but you're getting the whole tree and you're like, WTF, what is going on here? That's the equivalent of what you're getting in this bag or box that you think is mushrooms.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. So for then, why related to HPV, why mushrooms for this, specifically what I talk about mostly on, like if someone were to look me up on Instagram or my website or podcast or whatever, is AHCC, which I've mentioned.
Yeah.
And that is active hexose correlated compound.
Okay.
Not a sexy name. Not a
AHCC
memorable.
is a little bit easier to palate there.
It is, but I hear all sorts of like HTCP, HAA, people, it's hard. It's hard to remember. So you don't have to remember active hexose, but it's not easy, but, specifically for HPV and some other like chronic issues like autoimmune, Lyme is a big one too. There's kind of these big four that AHCC touches. That is the C word, cancer, HPV, Lyme, and autoimmune.
Okay.
Usually people in these with this diagnosis or health condition, they're pretty desperate for answers. And AHCC is, you don't need a prescription. It's safe to combine with other medications, supplements.
That's huge. Good. Yeah. Okay.
I always say talk to your doctor, but don't be surprised if they've never heard of it, or sorry if they poo-poo it because they've never heard of it. Just like me, when I first heard about it, I was kind of like, had a little ego trip, like, what? Yeah. If this was so great, I would have heard about it by now. But what I tell people is if you choose to start taking it for any sort of health condition or whatever, I advise people I work with to print off some of the studies, the double-blind, placebo-controlled, clinical gold standard studies. Take a few to your doctor and be like, here's what I found, here's what I've started taking, and here's some of the research, related to XYZ. And they will be much more open to...
You're literally speaking their language.
Yes, exactly. And it shows that you're taking ownership and you're not just some like pawn in the medical system, like kind of moving around.
Absolutely.
So I think, this is all coming back to taking ownership and really giving people back their power and responsibility and, ultimately ownership of their health, to know that, there are some things that are out of our control, sure, but there are a lot of things, most things that we can control.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Real quick, what would you say are kind of, besides AHCC, did I get it right? There we go.
Yeah.
It sounds like it has a great approach and a lot of benefits for key health concerns. Would you also say that AHCC is like a general wellness, like daily supplementation? It's going to be great for the person who's doing all the things or just looking to improve immune system, or what kind of like main daily approach for? Yeah,
great question. So it hits everyone from, I feel great and I have no systemic conditions. I just want that regular dose of immune intelligence. And that's what I named my label, Immune Intel AHCC. We're learning now that immune systems matter all the time.
Only a little bit, right? Yeah, just
365. Every single day they matter.
It only took a global pandemic for us to kind of be brought to this realization.
So, yes, it's a great tool in your toolbox for anyone that just wants to stay healthy. There's a lot of clinical evidence to show that it helps healthy people stay healthy.
Okay.
And it all comes back to immune intelligence. You're increasing the activity of the immune system, not just boosting it.
Yeah.
You're not boosting it. I like to, be very specific here, because in the case of autoimmune, they don't need a boost. They actually need something to calm them down, right? So it has an ability to regulate the immune system by providing more intelligence, by increasing the cells, the natural killer cells and the T cells, and these cells that are really like the generals in our immune army that are dictating
making the orders.
Yeah, exactly. So having more intelligence, just imagine your immune army being 300% bigger, and every single soldier having a 5G satellite radio with a selfie light. And every single soldier knows what every other single soldier is doing in the body, and they all have the same goal.
That's what I love about this stuff. So many things like plant medicine, adaptogen, herbs, medicinal mushrooms. It's the intelligence component. It's the immunomodulation capability. When you look at so many things in modern medicine, I'm running hot or I'm running cold on certain things. Well, you're going to get a pill, you're going to get a prescription, you're going to get a recommendation that's like, take this to increase whatever, take this to decrease. Well, why can't we just go to the source and look at something that has the innate intelligence in nature to modulate its own self for survival and anything that it's associated with. And then when it's safe for us to apply and to ingest and to use, it does the same thing.
Right.
Something that is going to apply that same innate natural intelligence, safe natural intelligence to our systems, immune systems, all the systems. And what I also love about, I'm not sure with AHCC, but I do know other mushrooms like lion's mane and a lot of other ones, they actually can pass the blood-brain barrier, which is huge for increasing BDNF, for decreasing brain inflammation, for helping clear lymphatic systems, to support decreased inflammation, and to possibly reduce things like Alzheimer's and dementia, and all these things that we know longevity-wise. Again, we keep coming back to this principle of you can be doing all the things, but you do need a little bit of help, even if you're, quote, a healthy person, because there's that long-term kind of payoff that we need to be mindful of. So something that can adapt with us, our daily stresses. I don't know about you, but today could be super great and chill, but then tomorrow can be running through the roof. And I may not change a lot of my health practices, but my life has changed. My stress level has changed. So if I have something running in my system on a daily basis that is going to fluctuate with me, it's going to give me more when I need more, and it's going to calm me down when I need to calm down, whether I'm aware of it or not. I mean, to me, that's the ultimate medicine.
Right.
And that's why I believe so much in these over the years, and why it's a part of my daily health practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Day in, day out.
I mean, ultimately, mushrooms, AHCC, things like reishi are super powerful adaptogens,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
And that word is kind of buzzy right now too. I think it's getting overused a little bit, but mushrooms are a really great example of, picture like a little work crew of doctors going in and evaluating what you, Chase, need. Every day. They're able to help you adapt to different stressors in your life. And that is one of the reasons why they are absolutely so intelligent. And you hit on it here, but they are dynamic, meaning that they don't have just one mechanism of action.
Word for it. Yeah, very dynamic.
They don't just have, a lot of pharmaceutical drugs are, they're static. They have one mechanism of action, one thing that they really work on in the body. They're not able to go in and assess the surroundings and figure out what does this person need.
And
they
even
have
better,
a mission.
They cause other problems. Most other drugs, it's like, hey, if you have this problem, take this for that.
Yeah.
But then it's the rest of the other minute and a half of the commercial is just blah, 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 side effects. And I swear to God, if I hear another one, it's like side effect, sudden death syndrome.
Yeah. Or suicidal thoughts.
Yeah. I'm like, come on. Like, I don't care what problem you have. Anything that can cause death or these other, it's like a whole other soapbox.
Totally.
But,
And that's the other wonderful thing that makes mushrooms and AHCC sound like sort of like a miracle is that there really are no negative side effects.
Too good to be true, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Again, this is going back to because they belong in us. They recognize our DNA really, really well. And so they not only do things like regulate the immune system, but also, you touched on it, lowering inflammation systemically, which inflammation is huge.
Yeah.
And it's basically connected to every chronic disease out there.
Yeah.
And then also specifically with AHCC is lowering stress hormones like cortisol, norepinephrine, which really you need those. Like we can't live without some level of cortisol, but a lot of us are living day in and day out with very extreme high levels.
We're in the red. We're revving high
Right.
for no reason or for
Right.
legitimate reasons even, but long term,
Yeah.
you're doing damage to your
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. And so it has this ability to immune intelligence, hormone regulation, and also stress, and inflammation,
Yeah.
which man, I want all of those things every day.
Yeah. And neurogenesis too. That's been
Yeah.
Lion's Mane for me has always
Yeah.
been kind of my favorite. The more I've studied that one, it's just it actually can help you grow new brain cells and make new connections, new neural pathways, and increase memory, decrease loss of memory, cognition, just all these things. It literally blows my mind how it affects the mind.
Yeah. It's
And
incredible.
that's just what we know of it so far.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing is like there's still such a mystery to us. I'm glad, ultimately, I am glad that they are becoming more quote unquote buzzy, because I think maybe people will be inspired because there is now a market for it, that
Right.
maybe we will do more research. Maybe we will do more of this or more of that. So ultimately I am happy that they are
Yeah.
becoming more mainstream, if you will.
It's becoming cool.
Yeah.
Until it's so cool that it's not cool anymore, I guess.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to move on to something
Yeah, right.
else.
They'll always be cool to me,
Yeah,
honestly.
I'm with
They're
you.
so woven
Yeah.
into my everyday life that I don't see any other path for me, honestly. Yeah.
So we've been talking about it here, and as we're kind of wrapping up, who would you say that you strive to help the most? I mean, your education is great. I love your content and just the medicinal aspect, the mushroom aspect, the supplementations, and of course the mindset. That's a big thing for me. If someone's listening right now that wants to kind of dive deeper with you,
Yeah.
like who is that person?
That's a great question. I feel like I'm speaking to myself. I'm trying to speak to myself 5 years ago, where I had some level of health knowledge. I wasn't a complete newbie to the space. Like
Right.
I knew some things about health. You're just trying to either feel better on a day-to-day basis, or maybe you're trying to keep your family healthy. You see the arrows and darts coming at your family unit, and you're just like, what can I do on a daily basis to stay healthier or to help my family in some way? And I think also the person who doesn't know why they don't have energy, doesn't know why they don't feel good, doesn't know why they came down with an infection like HPV or the like, you feel like you're a little bit alone and you have no one to help you or to reach out to or to understand where you are, or just be like, God, even my doctor, maybe won't order these tests for me. I feel like I'm on my own, because I've heard that all the time. And that happened
I've
to me
been
as
there.
well.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
convince your doctor,
Yeah.
hey, I think I need my whole thyroid tested, not just TSH. I need all of them. And then you have to basically have a book report ready to go.
Yeah.
Here's why. And it's unfortunate that is that way, but the reality is that it is set up that way. So the beautiful thing about social media is that everyone has it and everyone has access to it. It is not a socioeconomic status thing. It's not a money thing. Anyone can access Instagram. Anyone can access the internet. So I really want to be that touch point for the person, the woman who feels like they have no answers. If it's out of my range of, hey, here's what I know I'm really good at.
Sure. Yeah.
I've made certain connections in this space, in this, whether it's talking to them, interviewing them on my podcast, or just people you come to know through whatever, you're able to connect people.
Absolutely.
And I'm not, if it's past my hey, I'm going to connect you to this doctor over here or this practitioner who I know is bomb.
Which
AF.
I think is a great, quick kind of interpretation of a modern day healer.
Yes.
You know what you know. You're down to share. You're down to work. You're down to be, have that kind of, coach client type relation, or, healer customer kind of relation. But then also, because of, like you were just saying, with social media, with the internet, and with all these other touch points and platforms, if I don't know, I probably know someone, or I have
Yes.
2 degrees of separation. Being a modern day healer is really, I think, being a modern day networker, paying attention to the relationships you're building and the conversations you're having, and being really, really present with the person that you're maybe just talking with, but flat out could be working with. And not only being aware of what can I do to help them right here, right now, what piece of content can I create to help the person that I have in mind, the former version of myself, but also when I get the DM that goes beyond that, or I have a consultation that goes beyond that, I can send them to Mimi, or I can send them to Chase. I can send them to Dr. G. I can send them to, all these other people. That's incredible. I mean, talk about bring it really full circle. The network of mushrooms, the network of humans, like we're all meant to have this network of connection.
Absolutely. 100% agree. And I think it adds to so much, even for the person, for me or for you that's recommending this person that's coming to us, hey, I'm going to send you to my friend so-and-so. It adds to this abundance mindset. This is kind of like woo-woo a little bit here, but like, well, I don't want to send that to, what if they buy their product instead of mine? What if this, what if that? And you play out this like fear mode of like, well, I want to hang on to this. I want them to buy from me. I want them to, buy my course or my product or listen to my podcast. I am so far the other, like someone would probably look at me and be like, wow, you really, like business wise, right? That's just not where my heart is. My heart is to educate and to teach and to just really like extend and help the person who's looking for it. And if I can't give you answers, I will do my best to connect you to the person who can.
I love it. Well, I just want to say thanks again for coming on the show. We'll wrap up here. It's been a pleasure. Your passion, your story, your expertise, it's always so apparent. That's why I love, making these connections, having people on. It's just finally an opportunity to just get out what happened to you, what happened for you, and how you have kind of channeled that and fully sat with it, got still, understood it, and now can help other people. So that we're not just repeating this cycle of pain and suffering and not sharing and not building a connection, a network of healing. That's what Everforward's all about. But I'm curious, what does that mean to you? What does living a life Everforward mean to you?
I love this question. I think what it means for me personally is openness, staying open, whether that be in my relationship, keeping my heart open, whether that be in business, staying open to new opportunities that might push me a little bit, within myself, staying open and empty, right? For what we're talking about at the beginning, like being able to fill with the things that I want. You can't fill an already full cup. So staying open, I feel like it adds to this idea of always, forever a student. And every interaction, every conversation that I have, every interview is this person has something to teach me. And what is that thing? Staying open, I think, only adds to your growth. And I heard a really good quote actually this morning that knowing is the antithesis of growth. When you know something, I know it. That is the antithesis of growth. So staying open in my life, I think, keeps me moving ever forward.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Thank you so much. Mimi, we're definitely going to have all of your contact information and social down in the show notes, video notes. But if someone wants to go like right here, right now, I need more Mimi. Where are you hanging out the most online? Where can they go?
Yeah. So my website is getmimifit.com.
Okay.
I hang out on Instagram a lot, not a super big Facebook person. So my handle on Instagram is getmimifit. And from there, my website and my Instagram, you can gain access to my HPV course if that's of interest to you. And then I also have podcast called The Medicine, MEDICIN, no E on the end.
So if you liked this content, like go check that out. It's just like, this is a little drop in the bucket.
Yeah. It's our little mantra. I say my love, my partner, my man, my king joins me on there, Chase.
Not me.
Yeah, right. The other Chase. We focus on disease prevention for body, mind, and relationships. Okay. So it's kind of this holistic view of how do we treat, but yes, how do we prevent disease also? What are we doing on a proactive and potentially reactive side? So it's kind of all encompassing. So
I love it.
With a heavy dose of mushrooms in there too.
Yeah, the more the merrier. Absolutely. Thank you again.
You're
It's
welcome.
been great having you on the show. And that'll be a wrap, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. You've heard me talk about mushrooms a lot. I love getting more guests on that just have more passion, more expertise even than me, because this stuff is so powerful. So even if you think you're doing all the right things or you have an acute or a chronic issue, dive into the education, dive into Mimi's content, dive into past episodes of Everforward Radio. I'll link every other episode I've done that I've talked about this stuff. It's the answer. I truly believe that mushrooms in the right application, in the right dose, in the right mindset, the right environment, the right relationship with them is the answer for so many things, whether it's chronic, acute, or just maintaining your daily wellness and prevention as well. So thank you.